This week on Alan's Antics. Firstly, a big thank you to Kathleen Kerridge for allowing me to use her post in my blog today, The Upsetting Reality of Modern Day Poverty. This is a post about a subject very close to home, my home. It is about politicians who wouldn't know poverty if it chewed on their overpaid arses. It's about, in part, Jamie Oliver. Jamie Oliver was good to watch when I had money, before I had 6 operations, culminating in a partial mastectomy of my right breast. He was great before I had a heart attack, caused in part by the amount of strain the constant general anaesthetics put on the organ. My food budget? About £45 a week. That's for 5 days worth of packed lunches for 4 people, 2 lunches for 5 at the weekend and 7 evening meals. £45. I was over the moon when I saw Jamie had a new show on 4OD. Food on a budget, that sort of thing. Hooray, I thought. He'll show us how to feed us all on the money I have. Nope. Not a bit of it. You see, to Jamie Oliver, a £20 shoulder of lamb is cheap because it can do 2 meals and it's not the leg, so costs less per kilo. 2 meals, Jamie? For 20 bloody quid? I want at least 4 meals. It's a sad day when I get angry at Jamie Oliver for being a pretentious, arrogant prick. I know there are going to be many of you out there who are going to find this story completely unbelievable, especially if you've got a massive mortgage hanging around your neck. But here goes. This is from Disclose.tv. Iceland forgives entire population its debt, and there's a total media blackout. Except about 3 years ago, when this interview happened. Take a listen to this.
It has been a difficult 3 years for the small northern nation of Iceland. In fact, as the country's president put it recently, if you were to try to create the perfect laboratory experiment to test the resilience of a nation, you could hardly do better than what Iceland has experienced. What makes this all the more remarkable is the way Iceland has done it. Instead of following the standard formula of severe austerity and debt repayment, Iceland did pretty much the opposite. Olafur Grimsson is the president of Iceland. This morning he's in a studio in Reykjavik. Mr. President, good morning.
Good morning.
Pleasure to have you on our program. You have said that the collapse, the financial collapse in your country threatened your entire democratic and social system. How so?
It was an extraordinary experience to witness how the collapse of the banks, the financial crisis, seemed to be in the process of breaking up the very strong social cohesion which has characterized Iceland for centuries.
How far away from the collapse of that social cohesion you talk about do you think the country actually was?
Well, it's very difficult to say. We had the moment in the middle of the night in January where there was a big crowd outside the Prime Minister's office demonstrating, and the police was guarding the Prime Minister's office with shields and hamlets, and the crowd started throwing rocks at the police officers and the policemen. And then it seemed that perhaps the Prime Minister's office would be invaded, but then all of a sudden a small group came out of the crowd of demonstrators and put themselves in front of the police force, so the stones that were being thrown would hit fellow protesters. And many of us believe that if these individuals, 15, 20 of them or so, had not at that moment decided that enough was enough, nobody could have predicted what would have happened during that night.
What an amazing thing for a government to do, to totally wipe out all the mortgage debt. Obama asks for $3.4 billion to fortify NATO's eastern flank. So, get ready everybody. I think we'll be going to war. Now, with the current furore that's going on about migration and Calais and Dover and all these people coming from the Middle East and all the stress and tension that seems to be causing amongst the British public, I wanted to just go back to an older story from 2013, in fact. And this one comes from the Daily Mail, and it's about an influx of Roma migrants into Sheffield. Channel 4 is to visit Sheffield for a new documentary exploring the impact of immigration on a single community. Keeping Up with the Khans. They're coming to Sheffield to show how communities can work together, but also to show the tensions that's not just between whites and Asians, or whites and blacks, or Indians and Kashmiris, or Pakistanis and Indians. It's also showing you what happens when an influx of Eastern Europeans arrives and wants what's already there. Isn't that what happened in the 60s and 70s? It's happening all over again, but this time to a totally different, changed community. Japan's military is on alert to shoot down North Korean rockets. US officials said last week North Korea is believed to be preparing for a test launch of a long-range rocket. So, is North Korea a true threat, or are they just saber-rattling? The vaccine hoax is over. Documents from the UK reveal 30 years of cover-up. Thanks to the Freedom of Information Act, we know that vaccines are not a miracle of modern medicine. Any medical or government authority which insists vaccines prevent diseases is either ignorant of government documents and endless studies revealing the exact opposite, or of the CDC's attempts to hide the truth about vaccines from the public, or means harm to the public. Well, that was just a little snapshot of the week on Alan's Antics on RadioFreeUK.org. To hear the full recordings and a whole lot more, go to RadioFreeUK.org. And there'll be more next week. Take care and have a safe one.